Hello, this is a synopsis of chapter 13, and I'm going to be using the PowerPoints for this chapter because the PowerPoint provides a pretty good summary. Basically, the first two pages of the first two PowerPoint slides gives you a good summary of the main points of this chapter. And I don't have notes for chapters 13 through 15 that are written up and posted. So we'll be using the slides for these chapters. All right, so here's what's going on in chapter 13. We're talking about direct price discrimination. And what that means is instead of a company just charging one price to everybody, to all customers, a company will discriminate and charge different prices to different sets of consumers. Direct price discrimination is price discrimination when you can identify who the customers are. And so basically all they're doing here is they are charging more to people who are willing to pay more. So let me give you some examples of some direct price discrimination. The most common one that I can think of is senior discounts or student discounts. So let's talk about senior discounts first. So we might wonder, why are there all these senior discounts all over the place? Are they trying to, be nice to seniors, and are companies trying to just give seniors a break because they know they might be on fixed incomes? No, they're not. They're trying to maximize their profits. And if seniors had to pay regular prices, they wouldn't purchase the items or wouldn't come out and go to the stores or the restaurants or what have you. So by giving senior discounts, they induce seniors to come out and spend money, and that increases their sales and increases the profits. So when you think about senior discounts for theaters, for restaurants, for to go to museums, anything that offers senior discounts, what the companies are assuming is that if they didn't give the senior discounts, seniors would not come. Therefore, by giving the senior discounts, they're able to capture that segment of society and increase their profits. Student discounts is another one. Students might not go to certain things or buy certain products if they don't get a discount. So that, again, they're able to increase their profits and increase their sales by offering student discounts. So anyway, so in both of those categories, you can identify the customers. You're identifying the customers by age, so you can discriminate by age, and that's called direct price discrimination. Okay, so just remember, direct price discrimination is when you can identify the various consumer groups or customers, as opposed to indirect price discrimination, which we'll be talking about in chapter 14, is when you don't know who the customers are. You can't identify the different groups. Okay, so let's look at the main points of the chapter. So if a seller, direct price discrimination is when is the practice of charging different groups of people different prices that aren't basically cost justified. So instead of a more uniform pricing structure where they charge the same price to everybody, they're discriminating based on different groups of people. So it's direct price discrimination if the seller can identify the two groups. And so basically a more economic way to explain what I was just talking about is, why are the seniors being charged less, or why are the students being charged less? It's because of different demand elasticities. So they can what they can do is they're charging a lower price to customers with more elastic demand, okay? Because if the price is lower, then that will increase their demand, and they'll charge a higher price to consumers with more inelastic demand because they are going to pay that price anyway. So if you think about it, if somebody's more price conscious, if they have less income, seniors versus students, the demand is going to be more elastic. With everybody else, the demand is less elastic. Okay, so this whole problem can be defeated if there's arbitrage, meaning, let's say that somebody goes, let's say a store offers a senior discount. If the senior goes and buys all of these goods and gets the discount and then turns around and sells them on eBay for a higher price, then that's defeating the whole price discrimination scheme. That's called arbitrage. All right, let's see here. So with direct price discrimination, you can identify the members of the low value or the more price elastic group and charge them a lower price. And then you've also got to prevent them from reselling their lower price goods to the higher value group, which is, that can be increasingly more difficult today because we have so many options to resell things. So it's more of an issue today than before. All right, and then the book, in this chapter, we also talk about how it's illegal for businesses to price discriminate against other businesses. So in other words, Procter & Gamble cannot charge a different price to, say, to Walgreens versus Costco. So you can't arbitrarily say, okay, we're going to charge this consumer one price, or this business one price and this business another price. This was put in. This is actually a law. We're going to talk about this later in the chapter. This was a law basically to prevent small businesses from being put out of business. Think about if you have, a small hardware store that has to pay a much higher price versus that they're charging a higher price to than a larger store. But they can get around this, and the way that companies get around this is with volume discounts. So the reason, like if you go to Costco or Sam's or Walmart, for example, you are going to pay a lower price than if you go to a small mom and pop store or a smaller chain. And that's because they are getting volume discounts. So if these companies buy in bulk, they do get a volume discount. So that's the way they get around that. Now, and then finally at the end of the chapter, they talk about how people don't like to think that they're getting ripped off. People get upset if they think they're paying a higher price compared to other people. So if you do have some of these price discrimination schemes, I mean, not the senior discount or the student discount, but if you are charging one group a lower price than another, you try to not annoy the customers who are paying the higher price. Okay, we're going to skip this. I'm going straight to page 11 or slide 11. All right, so here they're talking about indirect versus direct price discrimination, and indirect is in the next chapter, and that's when you cannot identify the different groups of people. So you just basically offer. So there's some different ways to market with the indirect price discrimination. The most common example of indirect price discrimination is coupons. So let's come here, direct or indirect pricing schemes. Let's go over this first, and I'll talk about coupons. So tickets to movie theaters, senior discount, student discount, etc. Obvious, that's a direct pricing scheme. Airlines, business versus economy, that's direct. So with the airlines, you're paying more. Typically the closer you need to fly, the closer the window of your flight when you make the reservations, the more you're going to pay. So like with Southwest, for example, usually if you go out 14 days, you pay less than if it's less than 14 days. And so that's the way they get around the business versus economy tickets. So if you, business people typically don't have a large timeline, so the business class tend to pay more because they are needing the tickets right away versus somebody who's going on vacation just gets an economy ticket. And so the more recent, the sooner you need to fly, the more expensive it's going to be. So they're charging more to people who are willing to pay more for the convenience for that. All right. And then this one, grocery stores. This would be an example of an indirect pricing scheme. If you give away discounts, or give away coupons rather, so if you have these discount coupons or these weekly ads in the newspaper, or, today you can get digital coupons. They're giving those coupons to everybody, and they're just hoping that people with the more elastic demand, the lower income people, will utilize those discounts, will utilize those coupons, and will go in and shop at the store. In other words, they wouldn't normally purchase that item, but because there's a coupon, they'll come in and purchase that item. Now, if you have a higher end customer or someone with more inelastic demand that uses the coupons, that's not what you want. Then you've lost out. So, but with this indirect pricing scheme, with the coupon example, they're banking on only the people with the inelastic demand using it, the lower income people. If people who would normally buy the product start using the coupons, then it doesn't work. So that's the risk that you take when you have indirect pricing discrimination. You can't discriminate because you can't identify the customer, but you just assume that your higher paying customer who would normally buy the product isn't going to bother to use the coupon. All right. The Robinson-Patman Act, this is what I was talking about. It basically was saying that it was designed to protect independent retailers from the chain store competition, preventing these chains from receiving supplier discounts. But it is legal to offer these discounts on volume, and so are a bulk discount. So that's the way they get around this. Laptops. So if you've ever bought licenses for laptops or, software licenses or laptops, if you're buying for yourself, it's usually cheaper if you're, just a consumer than if you're a business customer. And so that's the way, this is another example of direct price discrimination, charging more to business customers versus consumers. Okay, and then this is kind of interesting. Studies have shown that when people are shopping online, if they see that there is a coupon, but they don't have the coupon code, then they'll be less likely to buy. So this goes back to people, they don't like to pay retail if other people are not paying retail. And so that's kind of interesting. So they say if you're price discriminating, it's important to kind of keep that scheme to yourself, only to those people who are getting the good price if possible. But I mean, it's really not always possible. And this is an interesting example in that you might have thought this yourself. You might have been online shopping and then seen that there's a coupon and you don't have the coupon, and so you just decide not to make that purchase, or a coupon code. Okay, so the main point of this chapter is just to explain direct price discrimination. Direct price discrimination is charging different prices to different consumers who you can identify, and you're increasing your profit, increasing your sales by getting people to buy the product who wouldn't normally buy it by giving them a lower price. Okay, and that's it for chapter 13.